Hello, MTBA fans, and welcome to week 2 of the Pick'ems. I am Jackson, or Sir Jathor, one of the analysts, and we are joined today by Rewt.
Hi.
So we're going to take a look at week 2 battles, and we're going to pick to see who wins, and yeah, we're going to discuss some matches. So first up on our match list, we have the Solar Hill Samurats, the electric type team, versus the Mount Silver Weavile, the ghost type team. Now, I picked the Mount Silver Weavile to win just because I think they have a great team with Dragapult Gengar. They have access to ground type moves that can destroy the electric type team, and I just think there are the technically stronger team itself. Now, Marsh, one of our analysts who was unable to join us tonight, he also chose the Mount Silver Weaviles. Now, what do you think?
Yeah, so I agreed here. I definitely think that the Ghost team is technically a stronger team. It has a lot higher highs in terms of offense and a lot of strong defensive options. It has a very strong defensive backbones, probably, one of the best out here. And they did take a really tough loss in week 1, but I still very much believe in this team. The one thing that I'm most interested in is just how evenly matched these two teams seem to be. For me personally, these are two of my top 4 or 5 teams. They were definitely both my top 4, like coming straight out of the draft, and they both I think had really strong week ones. I just think in the end, the Ghost team is a little bit better compositionally. It has a lot, like I said, just a lot more straight up offense. And it looks here like the electric team did get the vote in the community selection. So a lot of things going in here. Obviously, electric team won week 1 where the ghost team lost week 1. But you have to remember that the electric team had the type advantage in week 1. And the ghost team was playing a very strong team. So a lot going into that decision, a lot for the community to kind of go over. But with that, I think we're going to go into the next matchup, and it's going to be the Carolina Crush Claw, the Steel team, against the South Dakota Sunfloras, the Bug team. And first and foremost, right off the bat, it does look like the Steel team takes it on a pretty narrow margin here. And it is a very interesting kind of type interaction here. But for me, I personally have the South Dakota Sunfloras coming ahead in this matchup. I think they had a really convincing week 1 win. I think they have really strong offensive options. And the typing is a little bit awkward. I do still definitely think that the Steel team can end up winning this one. But I just think that the Bug team is kind of building their teams more confidently. They're playing more confidently, and I think they do have a lot of different offensive options that can definitely put them ahead. What do you think?
I actually agree with you. I actually do have the South Dakota Sunfloras in my pick for this week. I was really impressed of how they played last week. Who'd they play? They played the PBS, which is the PS2 Bolt Strike, uh, the ground type
The
team.
ground
But
team,
I
yes.
was really impressed by Libs in her draft, and I do think that the Sunfloras, they have the team available to defeat the Steel type team with Volcarona. They have Pheromosa, Gliscopod, Scolipede. They have all hitters against the Steel type team, even though the Steel type team is necessarily they're bulkier, but I do think that the Sunfloras edge out a win here. And it looks like Marsh has the same idea as both of us. So, next up, the third battle, we have the Baltimore Braviaries, the Dark type team, versus the Arizona Arceus, the Water type team. Now, I actually have the Baltimore Braviaries, the Dark type team, taking this win because they have access to Shiftry, Cacturn. They have access to Grimmsnarl. I think they edge out edge they edge out with Greninja, who has Protean and can easily get to an electric type or a grass type, which can run wild on the water type team. Now, Marsh actually did the same pick. He did Baltimore Braviaries as well. We're starting to kind of think alike. What did you have?
Yeah, no, this is a very interesting one. I actually disagreed. I have the water team edging this one out. Now, this was a very difficult one for me because, like we saw in week one, where even in the pickums, we both said, or everybody agreed, that Greninja can single handedly kind of make or break a matchup here. And this is one of those matchups where I just think Greninja has too much to deal with. And like you mentioned, they do have access to that Cacturn, which is going to make cause a whole lot of issues for this water team. But the other side of me is just thinking, if you're going to rely on Cacturn this much for a win, then I think there are a lot of issues with this matchup for you. I also just think that this water team has a lot of offensive pressure to put on there. I just don't see a whole lot of defensive options that can deal with a Dracovish. If Dracovish, if there's a solid Dracovish set that can just tear through a dark type team, I think the water type team has a lot of offensive options that the dark type team struggles to deal with, and it has a lot of bulky Pokemon that the dark type team just kind of struggles to break through. So for me personally, I would go with the water team here, but it does look like the community here agrees with you guys. The dark type team in a pretty narrow margin will take the matchup here. So I will be the sole dissenter here. But yeah, like I said, I just think that it's a lot of weight to put on Greninja shoulders and on Cacturn shoulders. And I just think that water has a lot of offensive and defensive options for this particular matchup. But with that, we're going to go into the next matchup, which is the New York XLP, coached by Crystal, which is the fighting team, and the Grand Rapids Grovals, the dragon team. And this is a really, really interesting matchup. I think they both had really strong week ones. Cress won her week one matchup, and the dragon team did not. So first and foremost, let's start off by saying that the dragon team did take the community vote here, and they also took my vote. I think they have a really, really strong team. They were one of my strongest drafts coming out of the draft. I believe I had them at number 2, and they played their week one phenomenally well. They really were one of the teams that impressed me a lot. And coming out of the draft, I did say that I was unfamiliar with a lot of these coaches, but the stuff that the Dragon team showed me in week one, I really just impressed me. And not only that, I just think that the fighting team is gonna kind of struggle against Latios on its own. And obviously, this Latios does have its counters on the fighting team, but if the Dragon team can play carefully around them and kind of deal with those checks early on, then it feels like the Latios can kind of win on its own. What do you think?
I actually agree with you and the community. I do have the Grand Rapids Groviles winning just because I feel that they are just they're a strong team. The New York XL Pikas, a lot of their mons, they don't really have much offense against the dragon type because fighting is, correct me if I'm wrong, but is fighting not very effective on dragon?
No, it is a neutral.
Oh, it's neutral. Okay. I'm wrong about that, but Infernape is not very effective because of the fire typing. I think Crabominal and Komodo are going to take the brunt of their offense, but I don't think that is enough to edge out a victory over the dragon type team. Even with Latios, as you said before, I don't think they can surpass that. And Marsh also put the Grand Rapids Groviles, so this is everybody's choosing the GRG.
A clean sweep. Right.
Next up, we have the Tennessee Tyrants, the fire type team led by Demo, versus the PS2 Bolt Strike, the ground type team by Nelson. I have the Tennessee Tyrants. Actually, I think that Demo has a lot of tricks up his sleeve when dealing with the ground type team because you do have Mamoswine, which Demo's team is super effective against, but I don't think that he should take the Mamoswine. But I do think with Drought, Solar Beam is one of his best friends. Um, but I think that the Fire type team edges out because, yeah, I just think that he has a couple tricks up his sleeve that he can really use. And Marsh agrees with me on that standpoint. He also put down the Tennessee Tyrants. What do you think about this?
Sure. Well, I actually have the ground team, the PS2 Bold Strike, winning here in this matchup against Fire. Now, this one's interesting for me because these are two really, really offensively strong teams. And in my thinking through this, I just think that the Fire type team lacks certain defensive options that the ground type team seems to have. I think that the ground type team is going to be a little bit more resilient here, and I think they can kind of come out ahead in kind of a blow for blow game. But the big caveat here is that I think if any team gets a really strong early lead, both teams just have the ability to snowball because this ground type offense and this fire type offense is really, really strong here. And just any kind of opening can be blown wide open in my mind. So for
That's
those
very
reasons,
true.
I think that the ground type team can win this one. I just think that fire type team is just lacking a little bit in defense that can kind of open those doors for the ground type team. But it does look like the community agrees with me. They have a pretty sizable margin on the ground type team as well, and part of that can just come down to type advantage here. But obviously, the Charizard is going to be an issue. Volcanion is in a position where it can deal a lot of damage here. The Rotom Heat is there. I don't want to say that the Fire type team has no kind of answers to a ground type team offense. I just think that the way that they match up with each other, the ground type team seems to be able to kind of open those doors early. But with that, we're going to go on to the Green Bay Pikachu's, coached by Jacob as always, against the Bellevue Weasels, the Faerie team. And this is going to be a really interesting one. I'm going to start straight off the bat with the community picks. And it does look like the community will go for the Green Bay Pikachu's this week, which is my pick as well. I think these two teams played phenomenally in their first week. It just comes down to, again, the Celesteela is going to be a huge difference maker here. I think the Fairy team is going to struggle against it. It's not, and I don't want to say at all that they don't have like any answers to it. I think they can deal with it eventually. I just think they just have to devote too many resources to be able to deal with it. And I think by the time it goes down, the Green Bay Pikachu's will have worn down the Fairy team quite a bit. And I also just think that the Green Bay Pikachu's have a stronger offensive presence overall. And I think that's just going to kind of be the difference in this matchup. What do you think?
I agree with you. I respect both of these teams. They're both great in week 1, but I think Jacob has built himself one of the scariest teams of the entire league. I think that there's almost no stopping this team, and I agree with you. The Celesteela is going to be a big factor in this matchup, but I don't think that the Weasels beat beat this team. They're just so dominant, in my opinion. Um, whew. and I and Marsh kind of agrees with both of us. The GBP, the Green Bay Pikachu's, are going to win, and that is a clean sweep against everyone.
Yeah, and it's really important to note that these are going to be two of the strongest teams out here. Spoiler alert for my own power rankings personally, but these two teams are going to be two of the top teams out here. These are two very strong teams, coached very well. It's going to be a huge matchup, but yeah, just kind of difficult the way that these two match up against each other.
And last but not least, we have the Scarlet City Sizor, the Psychic type team, versus the Miami Infernapes, the poison type team. Now, I have the Scarlet City Sizor, and and this choice is made for a variety of reasons, but most simply is because it is the pure type advantage. It's the pure type advantage of Psychic versus Poison, and I don't think that the Miami Infernapes have the resistance or the necessary defense to take any of these Scarlet City Sizers hits. And Marsh agrees with me on that front. What do you think?
Yeah, so for me personally, I have to agree. And it pains me to say that because I said from the very beginning that Poison is one of my favorite typings, and I'm rooting for this Miami team because I want it to be good and prove something with this Poison composition. But I struggle to see how the Poison team comes up with enough offense to kind of break this psychic um bulk. And even if it gets to the point where they can break through the psychic bulk, they have to devote so many resources to doing that, where the psychic team can just deal out so much damage in return. I think it's going to be a struggle. I think they just don't have as much offensive presence here. And again, it's going to be one of those situations where the direct type disadvantage is going to be really difficult here. But uh, but it does look like the community also agrees. They are going to go with the
Overwhelmingly.
psychic team as well. And like I said, it does pay me quite a bit because I want to see these teams do well. But that's going to be our final matchup here.
That is our final matchup. Now, thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to be a part of the community, hit that Discord link in the description. You'll be able to access our Discord where you can vote in the pick'ems, you can interact with coaches, you can declare your team, and just interact with the community at large. Anything else you want to say, Rewt?
Yeah, absolutely. Please be a part of these community voted on pickums. We want to get as many ideas out here, as many thoughts out here, even if they disagree with us. I want to be proven wrong by the community week in and week out. But I think that's going to be it for us.
So yeah, make sure you check out these matches, and we'd love to hear from you. And have a great week, everyone.